guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
He is Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department, here for some scoops on a Tuesday. The NFL world is congregating in Indianapolis. We have KOC Kwesi press conferences today. There's a really interesting high-level player at a major position of need for the Vikings potentially available via trade. The Wolves had one of their biggest wins of the season, one of the biggest regular season wins in recent history we're going to get into. But, Dukes, welcome in here. Jonathan Allen is a longtime Washington Commander, 8 years with the Commanders. He's 30 years old now, former first overall pick from Alabama, one of the best interior defensive pass rushers in the league over his career. He's not the same player now that maybe he was when he was 26, but apparently he's available via trade. 1 year left on that contract. The Vikings could use a player like him. Let's just start. Let's recklessly speculate to start the show here, if we could. Is that
I love it.
at all a conversation?
Sure. When you said interest in trading for a player that fits a position of need, now maybe it's not necessarily a position of need. I thought you might bring up Myles Garrett, because undoubtedly the relationship Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has with Andrew Berry, it at least comes up casually. Do I think the Vikings are trading for Myles Garrett? No. But I thought maybe you were going down that road. But okay, Jonathan Allen, the news breaks on Tuesday morning that he has permission to seek out a trade. Yeah, 30 years old, former first-round pick, right? So there's a good player there. There has been a good player. He was a really good player at Alabama. But now, maybe back end of his career, wondering how much production he has left. Did come back, to his credit, gets hurt early last year, pec muscle injury. There was a thought he would be lost for the year. Did come back, to his credit, at the end of the year. Here's what I would tell you. My sense is that he would have all sorts of interest in being a Minnesota Viking. A lot of players would have interest in being a Viking. They have set up an infrastructure here that lends itself to a lot of players having interest in being here. Whether the Vikings want to play ball, whether the Vikings reciprocate that interest, remains to be seen. But to suggest that Allen would have interest in the Vikings, I would say you are accurate in doing so.
Wow.
And it's no accident that he is put on the block as the combine begins, because this is the week where we are going to get a lot of discussions of trades, where the illegal but wink wink tampering period will actually start. So like, this is the week now where, if nothing else, I think it's fair to say the groundwork for such deals will be at least initiated. And the Vikings have an interesting decision to make here, because one, they do definitely, I think, need to and want to get younger, but because they don't have a ton of draft capital, the Allen thing to me makes more sense, because you're not necessarily going to address all of your needs through the draft. You can in free agency, but if you control the situation, i.e. make a trade, that is simpler. So I think that I think the fact that this news comes out on Tuesday as the combine is really starting to get underway, Dukes, hot and heavy, is no accident. And it would not surprise me if Kwesi at least had the discussion with the Commanders brass.
Yeah, it would not shock me whatsoever. I need to hear that first. But the idea that Allen would have interest in being here, yeah, I think we're on to something. Now, what is the contract for 2025? What is his cap number? What does that deal look like? Phil, can you pull that up?
Yeah,
relatively fast?
I'm glad you asked, because this was cheap plug, part of the 5.0 offseason blueprint episode on Purple Daily today. So crazy. His cap hit for the Commanders is not what it would be for an acquiring team. His base salary is $15.5 million, which would put him nowhere near the top 15 highest paid defensive tackles in the league. There's 15 guys and some comps. Like Kenny Clark is 30 years old. There's a couple guys in there who are the same age, making $21 million a year average annual value. So, Dukes, you'd probably just redo the contract on maybe it's a 3-year deal, but it's 2 years that are mostly guaranteed. And you'd get him up there with his peers who are also 30 years old. $20-ish million a year. You've got the cap space to do that kind of a contract. And maybe if it's a 5th round pick, it's not a 1st round pick. We know that much.
Well, it may even be a 2026 pick. I mean, at this point, how much are the Commanders expecting? Now, if there's multiple suitors, are the Commanders more likely to send him elsewhere, perhaps to an AFC team compared to an NFC team? So there's some moving parts there, but certainly an intriguing name at a position undoubtedly that they are looking for help at. I mean, you think about just in the last 24 hours, some of the combine interviews starting to ramp up. Darius Alexander, Toledo. I'm told he had an unreal Senior Bowl week. Thor could back me up on that. Thor could give you probably 4 minutes on Alexander, but that name hasn't been out there. There's a name for you. Formal interview. So the Vikings doing their due diligence on the interior defensive lineman from Toledo. The Draft Network had the note about the Florida interior defensive lineman, Cam Jackson, as well, having a formal interview with the Vikings. In terms of agent dialogue, I know of at least 2 big-time meetings that will take place on Wednesday. So we're sitting here on Tuesday, that there's going to be at least 2, if not more, on Wednesday. So perhaps maybe there's one of these meetings today, later today, into tonight, but it seems like some things will ramp up, at least in terms of dialogue, on Wednesday.
When that takes place too, so do we think that they're going to meet with the agents and or reps for Byron Murphy Jr., for Cam Bynum there? Because those 2 to me, just as a starting point, Dukes, are going to be those are decisions. There's a few things here I think that need to happen this week, and that is to exchange probably figures with those 2 players and their reps. You also need to get closer and closer here, if it's not known already, on Harrison Smith. Is he going to come back? Because they need to know soon on that. Like, there's a bunch of other smaller things, but I think that the Bynum thing, I think that the Murphy Jr., and what does Harrison Smith plan to do are 3 things that need to be tied up here fairly quickly, because they all have crucial impacts on the salary cap and or the future of your direction.
Absolutely. The answer to your inquiry is yes. So yes on the Murphy front, yes on the Bynum front, yes on the Harry Smith / Daniel Jones, same representative for both those guys. So maybe you get some clarity on Daniel Jones as well in that conversation. And certainly Drew Rosenhaus, the Rosenhaus people, right? He's got a number of agents that work under him when it comes to Aaron Jones. But I'll repeat what I said in this space last Thursday, that my sense is Byron Murphy Jr. is as big a priority internally as they have. Doesn't mean it's a 100% foregone conclusion that he'll be back. It is entirely possible the Raiders or someone else blows him out of the water. I understand that. But the Vikings absolutely want to retain Byron Murphy Jr. Certainly Cam Bynum as well. We know that on both fronts, there were a number of talks going back to last spring, summer, into the start of training camp, all the way up until week 1 at the New York Giants. But I don't sense on either front they came all that close. I'll just continue to be surprised if they bring back both. Like, if Cam Bynum's back, I guess it's under the Vikings' terms. And I just think he's an excellent player that can hit the jackpot for probably the only time in his career. Like, I don't know if maybe there's a 3rd contract, but this 2nd contract for Cam Bynum, this would seem to be it. Like, hit your jackpot right now. And I just don't know if the Vikings get to that number. But does Cam Bynum have interest in returning? Yes. Do the Vikings have interest in extending Cam Bynum? Yes. We know that going back to last spring and summer. I just think the market is going to be so nice for a guy like Bynum. I just don't know how you turn down the big money elsewhere.
What about Aaron Jones? I think on one hand, when he's out there, you could do a lot worse than Aaron Jones as one of your main 2 running backs. On the other hand, he is on the wrong side of 30. He does command a decent chunk of salary just based on the projections. So $6, $7, $8 million a year, which is, it's not 20 million, but and it's a really deep running back draft where you're almost certainly going to draft one guy, maybe even multiple guys that are going to ideally eat into his playing time. So with that whole picture painted, what do you think the future holds for Aaron Jones and the Vikings the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, certainly draft 1. I guess drafting 2. Now, hey, move back from 24, accumulate more picks. But right now, just looking at the limited amount of picks they have, drafting 2, I guess, would surprise me. But drafting 1 makes all sorts of sense. I mean, we'll probably see upwards of 30 running backs get drafted. I mean, that's how deep, that's how good this running back class is. What is the number on Jones? Definitely mutual interest, Phil. What does that number look like? I don't sense that they're willing to go as far as they went last year. So remind me what his exact base salary was in 24. Was it 7-ish?
It was 7, I thought.
7. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, would he come back at a tick less than that? 5.5-ish? Like, you tell me. I don't know. I mean, I think the Vikings would be willing to play ball if he's willing to come back for a lesser number. But is a team like Denver? I mean, I do think the Denver scheme is legit, but maybe it's somewhere else as well. But, like, is someone else willing to offer him more? How much does this place mean to Aaron Jones? If Denver is offering him $2 million more, does he take the $2 million more to go to the Broncos or somewhere else? Or does he come back here? Definite mutual interest. I just need to know what the drop-off point is. I mean, absolutely the Vikings, I believe, have a price point that they won't exceed on Aaron Jones. Is he willing to play ball at their price point?
So this is extremely intriguing because of this. And Jones joked about it throughout the course of the season, but it was only partially a joke, which is the importance of running backs around the league. You know, Doogie said multiple times, pay running backs, right? Running backs are back. They're in vogue, which he's not wrong. Saquon, marvelous. Henry, fantastic. But the reality is, and I will continue to say this, the reality is, for the most part, the running game is back. But that doesn't mean I don't think that the majority of backs are going to capitalize on the market. I don't think the teams are going to be throwing cash out. So I wonder, because, look, I think Jones looked at the situation in his mind, and we could debate this, but in his mind, he played 17, 18 games. Now the debate is, okay, you did, but you were banged up a lot, which was, by the way, the Packers' concern when they dumped you. But I think that there is a very interesting discussion here about the Aaron Joneses of the world. I think that they looked at the market now and how backs were being used and said, okay, I can get one more payday. I don't know teams are going to agree. This is a long-winded way of saying I think that there might be a chance that he will explore the market and then potentially come back, because I don't know the market's going to be as fruitful for Aaron Jones as he probably thinks.
That's fair. I think the idea is if he's back, whatever the amount of touches he had, I don't have it exactly in front of me in 24, but between carries and catches, that whatever that number was on a per game basis, that number is going to go down in 2025. So that's why you're not paying him the same amount of money. You will use him differently. Not way differently, but for sure in terms of touches. Like, you're not going to feed him the ball between catches and carries 23 to 26 times per game in 2025. And so if you're not doing that, a number less than 7 makes sense. You may be right, Judd. I still wonder, though, all it takes is one team. There's enough teams that need a running back. He might get that 7 number again, or maybe even a little north of 7. I just don't think that would be the Vikings paying that.
Yeah. We'll get to the rest of Doogie's Vikings scoop bag and also the Wolves with a ridiculous win last night against Oklahoma City. Shout out Legit Pizza. I think the Mackies have one more in the freezer that might have to be unleashed here in the next couple days. Pep's Legit Pizza with that stone-baked, cracker-thin, crunchy crust, zesty tomato sauce. Legitimately some of the best frozen pizza I've had in my career eating frozen pizza, going back decades. Find Legit Pizzas at a store near you and have an authentic at-home pizza parlor experience. Cut it into squares like a good Minnesotan. Judd, Park Tavern. Talk about the official neighborhood sports bar of the Sports Dad, if you could.
Absolutely. Well, located right in my neck of the woods in SLP Park Tavern, as Dukes can tell you, is a great place to take the family. It's a great place for pops to enjoy a beer, great food, all of the games that you could possibly want. You've also got bowling. I mean, what more could you possibly want from a bar than a bar that has everything, including a happy hour that goes weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. And then get this, Sunday through Thursday nights, a late night happy hour. 8 p.m. to close. Park Tavern, absolutely fantastic. Located Highway 7, Louisiana Avenue South in St. Louis Park. Check it out. It's the official sports bar of the Sports Dad for a reason. It will never disappoint.
Love it. I'll be there 3 weeks from today. NCAA draft year 26 or 7.
Wow.
Jeremy Stender, old buddy Jeremy Stender.
Wow.
Some other buddies. You literally just draft guys based on points. Like, this isn't like real detailed. It's a matter of, okay, like Cooper Flagg of Duke. Okay, you take him. Just how many points does he score? Does he play 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, 5? Or does Duke make it to the championship game, play a 6th game? You just total up points. We do a 14-round draft. It's a really good time. I'll be there on the 18th for said draft.
Love it. I have to crash that. I have to show off my college basketball knowledge. Dukes, anything else on Viking? We have obviously Thursday. There's going to be a lot more that we can discuss during Combine Week. But any other Vikings things before we talk Wolves?
Well, I mean, you're going to hear some national buzz the next 48 hours on Darnold, right? That on background, some Vikings officials may throw out, hey, yeah, the interest in retaining him is sincere. Now, I still absolutely believe, whether it's Josh McCown, others in Egan, love, with a capital L, love Sam Darnold. If they could somehow, get him back at a very low number, I've never seen that as a distinct possibility, right? But I wonder if the next 48 hours, in fact, I'm pretty sure we will hear some national chatter of this sincere interest in the Vikings re-signing Sam Darnold. I'm just not buying it. I still continue to believe that Sam will be elsewhere.
Yeah, that's fair. Wow, the Timberwolves, man. 25-point deficit in the third quarter last night. It is tied for the biggest comeback in franchise history. You got to go back to March 1st, 1996, KG's rookie year against the Charlotte Hornets at Target Center, where they were down 25 points in the first half and came all the way back. And like the biggest thing I thought last night was it's taken all of these steps from when the trade was made to, and there's still going to be, you got to complete the Nas extension for it all to come full circle. But to watch Finch stick with that young group down by 16 points with a few minutes to go, and Anthony Edwards, he dinged his calf, he was limping around, but also just for like performance reasons, Finch stuck with that young group. Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham, this version of Jaden McDaniels. Funny when for years they've just stuck him in the corner. Hey, we needed to knock down the corner 3. It's like, on one hand, Jaden, you got to knock down corner 3s. On the other hand, he scores 27 points on 16 shots, 0 3-point attempts last night. That's the blueprint for Jaden McDaniels' game. But when you give some of these guys space and empowerment to operate, they knock off for the second time in a week maybe the best team in the NBA last night, Doogie. So a great night for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cavs are slightly better, but you can make the case that OKC is the best team in the NBA. Certainly the best team in the Western Conference. Not that they are like a lock to represent the West in the finals, but, rightfully so, the betting favorite to win the West. You now have knocked them off shorthanded twice in the last, week and a half? 2 weeks? Yes. How much fun? Like Superstats Dave, one of our guys, put out the fourth quarter box score. Looking at the fourth quarter box score, it was tremendous. Not missing a free throw. Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham. Like, that was so much fun. I have a man crush on Jaden McDaniels. Good. I've long thought, run an occasional play for him. Yes. There is more to his game. I promise. There always has been. This is the best 6 to 7 week stretch of his pro career. It is so much fun to watch. I've been asked, Phil, you said, for it to come full circle, Nas Reed, they've known for a long time that Nas is worth double what he's making now, if not a bit more. like north of 30, 31, $32 million a year. The
Yeah.
Wolves knew in the moment of the cat trade, that's what it'll take to re-sign Nas this summer. They are fully prepared to do that. The plan all along has been to sign Nas Reed to a massive extension this summer. Not convinced Nickeil Alexander-Walker will be back, but on Nas, like, I'll be surprised, very surprised, if he doesn't re-sign with the Wolves. And hey, how many games left, Phil? So what's their overall record? I guess I could pull it up real quick. I mean, they still have, a couple dozen games left?
32 and 27, so yeah, but whatever. There's like 20 games left, 23 games left.
Well, you think about J.B. Bickerstaff, the Pistons, who continue to win. That pick is going to convey. The Wolves are going to get like pick 16 or 17 in the June draft, which will be fantastic. Very good draft to have a top 20 pick. Heck, 2 picks in the top 33 or 34, having Utah's second-round pick, which will be top 5 in the second round. But the Pistons knock off the Clippers last night. So when thinking about the jockeying of position, can the Wolves jump the Clippers, get to 6 to avoid the play-in? The Wolves pick up a game last night on the Clippers. Now, hey, the Clippers were down Kawhi. They were down Norman Powell. That's life in the NBA. We know the Wolves are down some guys. I am fascinated to see how the pieces work when Randall is back, when DiVincenzo is back, when Gobert is back. So the story on those 3. So Rudy was down in Cabo during All-Star break. I'm told he was feeling great in Cabo. He gets to Houston, that practice before the Friday night game, and the back acted up. That is a tricky injury, but there is no sense that is a long-term setback. So Rudy should be back relatively soon. On Randall and DiVincenzo, it's now, I'm told, down to conditioning. Now, I know the release they put out last week, DiVincenzo still needed to be cleared for some contact stuff. So it seems Randall is a bit ahead of DiVincenzo, but like we're talking in the next couple-ish weeks, maybe even a week, pushed up from what I said last week, that all 3 of these guys will be back. So what the heck, Phil, does the rotation look like then? Because Jalen Clark can't leave the rotation. To me, Terrence Shannon Jr. can't leave the rotation. So what does that look like? You talk about that fourth quarter last night. How great was the spacing? So you think about Rudy can do so many good things, right? But when thinking about the spacing on the offensive end, how does Rudy fit into that equation? So I'm fascinated to see how the pieces all click in when all 3 of these guys are back relatively soon.
Well, I think a couple things that you can actually learn from the Thunder. For like last night even, the Thunder, again, one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NBA, and they're playing a 10-man rotation where every single guy played at least 12 minutes. Not a 10-man rotation where Joe Ingles comes in to inbound a pass for 2 seconds. It's a legit 10-man rotation, and their rim-running, rim-protecting big man, Isaiah Hartenstein, played 16 minutes. Now, was there an injury there, or was that 16 minutes? I'm trying to remember. Because, I
don't know if he got banged up. I mean, Chet Holmgren was rested. Right?
Yeah,
He's still coming back from his injury. So OKC missed Chet Holmgren last night. I'm not sure Isaiah was injured, unless I missed something.
But
he took the blow to the head on McDaniel's accidental headbutt, and his nose, he was bleeding like a stuck pig, and they forced him to check out of the game.
Yeah, but so my point is, you don't have to play Rudy 35 minutes every night when he's here, if he's healthy. In fact, it's probably better. Now, some people go too far and say, you should have traded Rudy to be. The Wolves are a top 6 defensive net rating team, in large part because Rudy Gobert is the best in terms of preventing shots at the rim, blocking or altering shots at the rim. He is still very elite at those things. So it can't go to zero.
Not
Rudy.
as elite as last year, though, right? I mean, we can admit that he's not the same player he was last year.
But he diverts more rim opportunities than any player he's like top 5 in all of these rim protecting stats still. Yeah. So he is still but I don't need him for 34 minutes. How about 25 minutes? And how about you give some of those extra minutes to smaller lineups that are more effective offensively? There's a way to do this without it being, we can only play 8 guys every night like they did for the first 40 games of the season.
All right. How does Julius Randle fit in? And hey, there's some losses the last couple of weeks where I can absolutely point to and say, They missed Randall that night. Okay, so I don't want to turn this into a bashing of Julius Randle session. But how exactly does he fit in the way he dominates the ball? Like, to me, Naz Reid needs to stay in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
But, like, isn't the easy move if you're Finch, Julius back in the starting lineup because you know Naz will have no problem coming off the bench? But, like, to me, Naz needs to start.
But no, I disagree completely, because you want to keep Naz Reid, right? Like Naz Reid, you want to keep him. You partially or largely traded Cat to keep him. I want Naz Reid to know that I am putting a premium on him being here. And so will Naz Reid take it? Well, yes, he's a pro's pro. In reality, am I sending a message that's the wrong one to Naz and his camp? Absolutely. And Julius can opt out. Like, the thing that we've learned is no matter how Finch does this, like last night, we saw when you're forced to put up with the youthful mistakes, you're also going to get some really nice payoff of they don't quit. And so I am not concerned about what Julius thinks. I'm concerned about Naz. And just because he takes it well now doesn't mean that he might not say, you know what, that was sort of weird. And by the way, I can go get a lot elsewhere. So I am putting an absolute premium on making sure that Naz Reid knows that I want him long term. And if Julius opts out, you know what? That plays right into my hands.
Yeah, that's fair. That's plenty fair. I just wonder about the internal dynamics with such a move. Do you disrupt things too much? But yes, on the surface, what you said, Judd, makes complete sense. We're in agreement. Naz Reid needs to start. That's just a way to get him that many more minutes. I mean, to me, it's still more important about finishing, not starting, but Naz Reid, to me, should be doing both. Here's another fascinating angle to all this. We know the Wolves will re-engage the Suns in the summer on Kevin Durant. Okay. Like, who are you willing to move off of? Like, if you're the Phoenix Suns, you're watching Jaden McDaniels play this way, there's no way you're moving KD without receiving Jaden McDaniels, right? But if you're the Wolves, are you willing to put Jaden on the table to get KD here? Maybe I'm overthinking it based on an 8-week stretch, but
No, you're not.
I'm telling you, man crush on Jaden. Are you willing to move Jaden in a trade for Kevin Durant?
Again, part of the Cat trade was, at least I thought from the beginning, to open up. You're taking this high usage force of offense and a guy that needs 20 shots a game and all these things. You're extracting that from the equation, and you're not filling it one for one with Julius long term. You're filling it with younger guys who are emerging. And it took Julius getting hurt back it was February 1st was the first game. So it's been the entire month of February. And only through that injury have you seen a Jaden McDaniels who's not being told to stand in the corner for 75% of the offense. And like, again, last night was the crowning version of Jaden McDaniels. I've been calling him for years on Flagrant Howls a diet Kawhi Leonard. And like, people kind of laugh like, oh, come on, dude. You watched that performance last night, the mid-range game, the personality, where they're both just stoic, emotionless, perimeter defending robots, right? That was Kawhi Leonard last night against Oklahoma City. So to open up this space for that version of Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, if there was a way to acquire Durant using the Julius opt-in or a sign-in trade and other pieces, let's talk about it. I'm not giving up Jaden McDaniels. If this is the next level Jaden McDaniels that we're getting now going forward, zero chance.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Sign me up. Pick 16, pick 33, and whatever else it is, right? It may be
Dillingham.
One of Dillingham or Shannon, certainly Randall, to help make the money work. But yeah, whatever you need to do to retain Jaden, fine. Sign me up for that. I mean, the idea is, okay, you bring in KD, you can immediately compete for a championship next season.
Yeah.
But then you still have the window open enough with Ant, Naz, Jaden, that threesome, for the next 5 to 7 years. So fine. I just wonder, though, are the Suns willing to play ball if they're not receiving Jaden McDaniels?
Yeah. The two most frustrating things about Jaden McDaniels over the last 2 or 3 years have been, where are the rebounds? You're a 6'9" athletic freak.
Well,
where are the
they're
rebounds?
there now.
And Why is he standing in the corner launching 6 threes a game, which he's not a great 3-point shooter? And whether it's through coaching or just need, because they need him to step up in the absence of the other big bodies, he's playing more like a big. He's getting to the rim. He's getting to the paint. He's getting to the free. He was 9 free throws last night, and he's grabbing rebounds. You almost have to I know that he's kind of gangly and he looks like a perimeter player, and he can score from the perimeter a little bit, but you have to treat him offensively like more of a big, a guy that's going to get in close range and be a rebounder too, and get some of his offense off offensive rebounds. Standing in the corner, like, the fact that he's giving you this, you're looking back, why was he in the corner for 3 years? What is going on here?
I'm with you. Absolutely with you. Favorable schedule the rest of the way, more favorable in my mind. I haven't looked at the strength of schedule percentages and all that, but you look at the Clippers' remaining schedule, you look at the Wolves' remaining schedule, favor Wolves. So to me, the Wolves are in a pretty good spot. Now the Warriors are catching fire. And so you need to be a little careful. Dallas is right there too. Sacramento, a couple losses back when looking at the loss column. I don't know what I think of Sacramento. I do think there's a separation now, though. Like Spurs down Wemby. The Suns are a dumpster fire. I think we have our 10 in the Western Conference. Take out Phoenix, take out San Antonio. So Sacramento, the 10 team. Warriors, Mavs, Wolves, Clippers go up and down then. Rockets, Lakers. You have the Thunder, the Grizzlies. Did I mention the Nuggets? So those are your 10 teams. Look at the top 10 right now. To me, that's the 10 that will make it. It'll come down to matchups, right? Like you can make a case depending on matchups. The Wolves can win a playoff round or 2 or maybe even 3, right? But like to me, if they open up against Memphis, I don't like that. I just don't. I still need to see more of the Lakers, what the Lakers really look like with this bunch. But I don't know if you want to play Luka and the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. Denver? Well, we know the Wolves match up well with Denver. Houston? Okay. That's fine to me. So who do you start with in the first round, then go from there? But like you can make a compelling case that this version of the Wolves can make a run throughout the month of May.
I think what we saw last night, though, also makes a very good case about the fact that some of these kids have to play now, and it's not like if you're saying, well, Julius comes back, okay, and he goes back to starting, and we just sort of go back. I think that team has less of a chance of winning a round than a team that doesn't bench him, but a team that brings him off the bench, for instance, and a team that has a rotation. I mean, Chris Finch has basically been forced to use guys he was trying not to use. And what we've seen is, yes, they're going to screw up at times. Yes, they're going to have off nights. Yes, they're going to have quarters that are absolutely atrocious. But like last night, like if the Wolves are being blown out last night and it's Gobert and it's Randall, and let's just say they're down 20 plus points, Doogs, they ain't coming back. Like last night was built on the back of a resilient group that showed you something that basically is trying to tell their coach, we deserve to play. And I'm not buying that like Finch is like, well, we're trying to ease guys in now. No, you've got guys hurt, which is awesome. That's fine. But what you saw last night, to me, if that doesn't change your thinking, if you're Chris Finch, then nothing is going to. And that's a problem. I think the team that we saw last night, mixed in with some of the veterans in the playoffs, has a chance to win a round. I think if you go back to status quo, you probably are hurting your chances.
Maybe, although I'm telling you, if you play Denver or Houston, status quo can probably get you through a round. Still loving the Jalen Clark defense. That defense, especially late last night. Phenomenal. Big heart for that. I checked again. He still has enough days on his two-way that it's not like the Wolves need to like immediately convert him to a standard NBA contract, but it's coming. Like the Wolves realize they have to do it. It is going to happen. I even told you the Wolves, they did a deep enough dive on the KD talks leading up to the deadline where there were so many moving parts that they were preparing, okay, like we can attain KD. Now, I personally don't think it was ever going to get done because of so many moving parts, but the Wolves at least engaged multiple parties on, okay, like if we can aggregate, get below the apron and start aggregating some contracts. And hey, okay, we dip below the 14 contracts. Well, Jalen Clark then would have been an immediate elevation, right, from two-way contract to standard contract. There was at least some dialogue on that front. So that just tells you how deep a dive the Wolves did pre-deadline, preparing as if they were going to land KD. But yeah, it's really fun right now. And I'm telling you, that March schedule is pretty darn favorable. It really is. Thursday should be fun at the Lakers. But even after that, I think it's a pretty darn favorable schedule that they should be in a pretty good spot to avoid the play-in.
Yep. Dukes, we do have to run here. Do you have a scoop for the road that we can take?
Yeah, the Clippers had a scout at the barn on Saturday to watch Dawson Garcia. I guess other Gophers and Nittany Lions. Gophers lay an egg. Gophers back in action tonight at the barn against Northwestern. No NBA scouts will be at Williams Arena tonight. I suppose the Wolves have tickets, so maybe the Wolves send somebody over, but there are no credentialed scouts heading there tonight. Katie Lou Samuelson chose the Seattle Storm late last week, but the Lynx were in it until the end. The former Indiana Fever forward has a connection in Nafisa Collier. The Lynx were heavily involved trying to sign her, but she ultimately chose a return to Seattle. She played for Seattle a couple years ago.
Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. Some scoopage. All right, plenty more on Vikings on Thursday, so we'll do it again then, Dukes.
Okay, sounds good, boys. Talk in 2 days.
All right, boys. It's Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd.